All right, first I'm going to go over the different media that you'll need for your 8 media design. First one is pen and ink. The pens look like this. There are 2 different types of heads. You have the thin tips and then the flat tips. And then you also have your bottle of ink that you'll need. Crayons, they come in a box that looks like this. There also might say oil pastels on them, but you need some of those. Crayons, just your regular Crayola school crayons. Colored pencils, just like you're used to. Got some colored chalk. This is kind of like sidewalk or blackboard chalk, but we got different colors here. Thin tipped markers, such as these. And then chisel tip markers are either like these scented ones that we have in the classroom or the Blick Studio. And the Blick Studio actually have the chisel tip and the thin tip on either end. So those work great. And then the last thing is charcoal. We have charcoal in little blue bins like this. There's pencil charcoal, okay, in a pencil form. There's stick charcoal. This will give you the thickest, heaviest line. And then there's also vine charcoal. This will give you a nice, soft, smooth line. Okay, so got all your media. Make sure we know what our objectives here are. We need to use all 8 of the required media. Use repetition, variety, balance, and emphasis in the creation of lines, shapes, colors, texture, and pattern. What does that say? Basically, we need to use the principles of design to organize the elements of art. We need to try to make this look interesting, look good. Repetition will be repeating some parts of it. Variety will be using different colors and different media. Balance, you want to make sure it's not heavier on one side than the other. And emphasis, there should be some parts that stand out more than others. Okay, and finally, work is non-objective with a high degree of difficulty. Non-objective means that there is no specific subject matter, so nothing very identifiable. Okay, so it doesn't really matter what order you choose to use these in, but I'm going to go ahead and start with pen and ink. And you got to be very careful when you're using pen and ink because it can drip very easily. I tend to like to have a paper towel to catch any drips. Okay, so I'll go ahead and dip my pen in there. Let it drip off if it needs to. And, all right, I'm just gonna start with a shape, I think. Need a little more ink on here. Nice thing about these wide tips is if you keep holding it in one position, you can get a combination of thick and thin lines. I got a little splatter over there, but I'll just go with it. Okay, now I've kind of made an interesting creation. So for the sake of the principles of design, I'm going to kind of repeat that a little bit. Doesn't have to be exactly the same, but I'm going to repeat something similar to what I made there so that these will kind of tie together. And why not? I'll add a kind of a smaller thing of the same variety. Okay, so that's how you can use the wide tip. If you want to use the thin tipped pen, you can make more specific, smaller lines and doodles. I'm kind of trying to do whatever I do in one part of the artwork, repeat it somewhere else. Okay. I might come back to the pen and ink, but I'm going to move on for now. I'm going to try a chisel tipped marker and get some purple in here. So the chisel tip marker will allow for some wider marks and wider lines. Okay, you can use a thin tip marker. Obviously this is just going to give you thinner, more detailed lines. Let's try some crayons. Now these are kind of like crayons, but they're held together with oil instead of wax, so they definitely have a different feel to them. Okay, again thinking about repeating what I'm doing here. Now, as you're going through and doing your design, what you want to do is pause after each step and kind of look at it, see what you've created, and see what it needs, how you can make it better. And right now, this corner seems pretty blank, pretty lacking. I think I'm actually going to put another circle of ink over there, kind of pull our attention up there a little bit. Okay, and that kind of helps balance out the heavier marks going on over here. I kind of have a pattern with these going, so I'm going to put one in the middle. I'm varying the size of as I go, so it counts for repetition because I'm repeating the shape. It also counts for variety because there's a variety of sizes of these shapes. Maybe I'll make it look as though there's some of these coming off the page. Make it look like the design would continue. Maybe make it a little bigger up here. And that'll kind of add some interest. All right, I gotta stop and look at it again before I go too far. Okay, so I have a lot of other media to use, so I'm gonna try some colored pencil. And I think I'm gonna color in these circles maybe a little bit more. Try and pick a color that goes good with purple, and I think lime green and purple always stand out next to one another. You can see how I smudged the ink a little bit. If it's not completely dry, that'll happen. Which I'm okay with right now. Got one over here. Okay, so colored pencils can be used to color in, make marks of their own. Possibilities are endless. So we haven't used crayon or chalk yet. I'm gonna get a blue crayon and think a little bit about my background. I'm kind of seeing these circles as coming forward to the foreground. So how could I make it look like there's a background? I'll just start with maybe coloring in a little blue. In between the objects. You might want to color this in more thoroughly if this is what you're doing. And I might too, but I'm going to make this go a little quicker, obviously, for the fact that this is a demonstration video and you don't want to sit here all day watching this when you could be making your own art. Okay, so like I said, I might color that in a little more thoroughly, but for right now that'll count. And I need some chalk yet. So thinking about some, like the squiggle line that I have, maybe I could use some chalk to pull it out a little bit, even over here. Okay. Get it going through these a little bit. Chalk is also a good one to color bigger spaces in, laying it on its edge. Just get a brighter spot in the middle there. Maybe I just make some patches. Okay. So let's see, I've covered pen and ink, Crayola, crayon, colored pencil, colored chalk, thin markers, chisel tip markers, and I didn't use the charcoal yet. Okay, so I got some charcoal. This is gonna make some thicker, if I use this big stick, make some thick, heavier lines. So before I just use that, I wanna look at my design and think about, even rotating it kind of can help you see it in a different way. Think about maybe where this could be useful. I see kind of a blank area in the middle, but I want to keep the unity and the repetition going on. I've used squares and kind of squiggly lines, so I mean circles and squiggly lines, so maybe I'll just make some squiggly lines. Maybe I'll take one of the pencils. Okay. I'm gonna attach some circles into this. Okay, now for the sake of repetition and unity, I'm gonna do something similar with this in one or two more locations. Maybe a little bit up in here. Okay, so I've used all my media. That was just kind of to give you an example of how to do this. I want you to take your time as you're working through these different media and really be thoughtful with each material that you use and what you want to do with it, how you want to use it. Take your time. Like I said, I did this really fast, but do think about those things as you go. Repetition, like repeating the shapes and the different things you have going on. Variety, so making different sizes, using some different colors, and emphasis. So I wanted to make some things emphasized. So I did with these thicker circles, remember, and I colored them a different color, that green, to make them stand out. So do think about those things as you're working through your design. Take your time, make sure you use all the media, and have fun.